All right, welcome to part 2 of the brewery tour, answering viewer questions. So, I'm going to get right into it. This is from BMIM Grund. Grund. Hi, Pat. Hi, Grund. From our conversation last week about putting together some questions for a Q&A video covering what we were working through as we were thinking of opening a brewery. We would be in Kentucky area. Below are some of the initial questions we've put together. What considerations did you have for picking a location? Well, anybody who watched my water video will know that before I do anything else, I make sure that there's good water in the area. You don't want to be running off a well, most likely. And also, you're going to produce a lot of wastewater, not hazardous wastewater, but just a lot of water you need to get rid of. So, septic tanks probably not going to work too well. I'll bet laws are more lax in Kentucky than they are around here. So, I know brewers out here have to have like 3 septic tanks to brew without municipal water. So, water's the first thing, and then you have to make sure that your floor is strong enough. You got to be on a slab of poured concrete, probably at least 6-8 inches thick. That's very important. Getting things through the door. When I ordered my tanks, they came in a little taller than they were spec'd. I had to take the feet off them and then push the overhead door up with a broom handle to get them through. Got them through, scraped the paint off, so obviously that's one thing before you go picking a location. Also, ooh, that's good. Wow. As far as traffic to your location goes, you got to decide, are people going to be walking up or are people going to be driving up? If people are going to be driving up, you need a lot of parking. People just don't like to be hassled driving. They don't even like to make a turn if there's not a light. They don't like to turn out of your parking lot. So everything has to be super convenient, or people don't want to go there. They certainly don't want to park down the road and have to walk. So parking's a big concern as well. Was that what it was? Picking a location, yeah. Let me see what else. You're going to have a lot of grain to get rid of, so next door to a big farm ain't bad. And then, he gave me suggestions. Ceiling height requirements. Yep, you got to spec if you're going to have coolant flow into your tanks, they're going to have to go above. Fermenters, you have to get high enough above them to look down in them and clean them so they can't be scraping the ceiling. Really nothing could be scraping the ceiling. So yeah, you need good enough clearance. I'd say minimum you need 3 feet over the lids of all your tanks. Plumbing. See, I'm close to sea level, which means that I get a lot of water pressure. So when I have a cooler, water goes barrel-assing through it at top speed, and I can cool very, very quickly my wort as it's coming out of my kettle. That's a big deal. If you're down in Kentucky, I know the nights are cold, but the days are hot. So I don't know what temperature the water is generally, but if water comes out of the tap at 80 degrees, you necessarily will have to have a secondary cooler to brew any kind of palatable beer. Then there's some other stuff in my water video. You should check that out. Just get through the first scene, and then it's not so gross. Electrical. Besides keeping things up to code, you just have to make sure that you have enough amperage. I don't know how much we got coming in. I think we're running the whole thing off of like a house fuse box. I think we got like 50 amps but we're running gas, so you don't need much if you're powering things with gas. But obviously, if you have electrical boilers, it's normally not hard to get people to give you a larger electrical service because they want to sell you more electricity. So if you tell them, I need you to wire me up so I can buy more of your electricity, they're normally pretty good about that. But, you know, make phone calls, you know, cost you nothing except time. Part of town, etc. Yeah, that's the parking. I'm in a particularly bad part of town, and I wish I wasn't. So if you have more money than me, don't be in a bad part of town. Pretty simple. Did you do any market research? No, I didn't, and I should have. Market research is extremely important, and it's hard to describe how important it is. Um, I'll say you should definitely read some books. The One Page Marketing Plan is a big help to me. Jab, 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 right hook is a great book. Um, marketing, you know, you marketing, as it says in one of the books I read, is like firing arrows at a target. There's only a couple of targets, but you can fire arrows anywhere. So if you're marketing, for example, on a billboard, you want to market anything that people driving by might want to buy. So Pepsi or car insurance, right? If you're trying to sell alcohol, well, now you've paid to advertise to a group of people who don't sell or who don't drink alcohol. Too young, or they just don't drink it. Women don't drink nearly as much alcohol as men. Um, so you want to go for much more precise marketing than that. You fire your arrows at the targets they're going to hit. You know, for breweries, you're normally looking at men 35 to 65, and really older. You see these new kind of like you think they're super young hip beers, but the guys who are buying them, who are driving these breweries, are guys who are empty nesters. Their kids are out of the house. They got time and money. So I say, yeah, market to your dad. Unless you're my dad, in which case market to yourself. What was your process for getting to point y'all decided you were ready? I still don't think I'm ready. I jumped in because I said that I'm too cowardly to do anything, and if I don't just jump in, I'll never do it. So, when I got married, my father-in-law paid me a dowry. Um, they didn't say it was a dowry, but you know. And then I spent it all on a brewery before anyone could talk any sense into me. And now it's kind of about to work. It's about to be good. There you go. Was it just friends and family saying you should sell this, etc.? No. Well, my friends say that, but your friends will say that about anything. You grow pot in your basement. Oh yeah, you should sell this. You make a fortune. You won't go to jail or anything. Were you entering your beers in competitions or had some other third-party assurance that you had good recipes? No. I give beer to people and see if they like it. My favorite thing to do is give people beer and not let them know that I brewed it. Also, if you like beer enough to brew it and you taste it, you're going to know if it's good or not. And the other thing is when I drink 3 to 4 new beers every Friday night. And half of them are terrible. I mean, just awful. The stuff people put on the market is terrible. So don't be self conscious, number one. Number two, if you have a beer, you'll know it's ready to go when you are excited to tell people about it. You'll know when. You'll know when it's good. Every location will be different, but I'm going to assume that says, do you have any marketing promotion? Right now, I'm just doing a lot of social media, and we're putting together some sample boxes that have some QR codes. So we'll roll into a bar, give out some cans, have some QR codes. I'm working on movies explaining each beer. So uh, bartenders, barkeepers, publicans, heads of beer programs can know how legit I am. Okay, how many beers did you have that you considered good to go? I already answered that. Similarly, about how long did it take to, I'm going to assume it says, get fully licensed, and how long did it take from being fully committed to the idea to actually opening? Okay, to get fully licensed in the, how can I paint without too broad a brush here, gulag of New York State, you have to jump through a lot of hoops, a lot of small burning hoops. Um, let's just say that if I were to act the way that my state liquor authority acts with fulfilling government documents, they would have put me in jail. So um, it has to be easier in Kentucky or anywhere else. But I had city, um, county, federal, state. They're all bastards. It's hard. It's hard as hell. Um, the guys who are already entrenched don't want competition. I mean, that's changing. I mean, I have to say, New York Liquor Authority has gotten a lot easier since I went through. They still shouldn't exist. So to answer your question, about a year and a half. Were you trying to ballpark your initial costs so we can start thinking about fundraising? All right, I haven't costed stuff out in a while, but I can tell you that getting my tanks produced and shipped here, and I'm talking hot liquor, mash tun, brew kettle, bright tank, heat exchanger, uh, 2 dozen kegs, a pump, was about 40 grand to have it made and brought here. Now, it's a lot harder to get stuff from China right now, and the cost of metal has gone way up. I'm going to say, honestly, for that equipment, 65 grand. It's my guess. And then, like I said in my video, I built my cooler, you know, because I didn't have space to buy one or money to buy one. What does a cooler cost for one that's the size you need? I don't know. 20 grand? And you gotta have space. So, back to the whole location, I'd say someplace far out enough that you have space. Maybe the kind of place where people are parking on the grass, that kind of thing. And then as for other stuff, I mean, are you going to spend time or money? Are you going to build stuff or are you going to buy it? To get set up like me, and I mean, 150 grand, probably, with the many years of rent I've paid for just all my equipment. If you build some, you get lucky with some, 100 grand, something like that. It's not cheap, um, but it's one of those things where if you try and do it all yourself, it takes so long that you're old by the time you're done, which is unfortunately the way I chose to do it. If I could go back in time, I'd probably get a bunch of investors. That being said, also though, um, they would have wanted their money back a long time ago, and I wouldn't have been able to pay them. I'd be out of business. One of the things I decided starting this up was if I went out of business once, I wasn't going to let it stop me. And so far, I haven't gone out of business, but let me tell you, I've had 2 kids and a marriage and a dog since then. So, yeah, life's tricky. Okay. Okay. How quickly did you slash are you thinking of getting into bottling canning? Um, where I am, that's how small breweries make money. They brew super premium beer and they put it in cans, which is great market because you really can't brew the super premium stuff at a huge brewery. Um, it's like surgery. It still needs human hands. So I'd say that's your market share. Is super premium stuff in cans. So what do I have? I have one little. Uh, I have one little canner, and I have um, plans to make a can filler, homemade. Because a can filler, 40 grand, probably more by now. So I'm making something myself. Um, that's the other thing. Keg washer, them things, I don't know, 20 grand. Made that myself though, and it works. Um, what was the question again? I got lost. Hold on. Canning. Yeah, I gotta figure that out. Hopefully I'll have plans for that canner out soon. I actually would love to be able to just put out plans to 3D print it. I used to work at a water jet facility, and one of my old buddies, Tom Parsons, helped me out a ton and programmed and helped me get some sheets of metal cut to make my canner. I'm hoping to have that working perfectly, and then I'll give plans out. And you won't have to water jet cut them. It's just extremely convenient. I'm sure you could do it with a hacksaw. And yeah, if I ever get canning figured out, maybe I'll let you know. But I'm basically an idiot. Do you have food on site? I don't, but I'm hoping food trucks will show up at Albany, New York, Perfect World Brewing's global headquarters, Saturday mornings. If not, do you have food trucks? No, I wish I did. How do you recruit them to show up consistently? I think you just have to have a place where people are going to be to buy beer, and that'll just be their best bet. I think they talk to each other and they kind of like make deals with each other. Like, one dessert guy and one lunch guy will show up. I don't know that. With food trucks, do you pay them, or is your customers that are being shared sufficient? Yeah, your customers being shared is sufficient. They go wherever they can sell food. There are some laws in New York State where you can hire them as a catering company, but you actually can't share profits with them. You actually can't have of profit sharing in this state. Um, you can actually, if you have an overhead door that they can drive in, you can have them drive into your brewery and then cordon off a spot. You have to rent it to them for $1. You have to drop a contract or some other such nonsense. Who knows if that's changed by now? What is the inspection process like, and how often does the city do them? They come around about every 6 months. We have, um, what's it called? Health and safety or something, and they're not bad dudes. They show up, check you out, and if you have something wrong, they don't try and screw you to the wall. If you're like, hey man, I'm gonna fix this. They showed up once for me and my hot water tank was broken, and they had to write me off because it wasn't hot enough for me to wash my hands properly. But I just told them like, hot water heater burst. I got a basement full of water. I got to fix it, and they said, yeah, okay. I just got to put it on paper. That's all. So then I fixed it, and he came back 2 days later and gave me a big thumbs up. He didn't shut me down during that either or anything. And one other time, I forgot to have a waste paper basket in my bathroom. And even though I just put one in there immediately, they were like, oh, we got a right job. Not like anybody ever came and shut me down or anything, but, you do have to know some things, though. Like, you have to keep your ingredients and your chemicals far apart. You have to have everything labeled. So if you have, Sandy Star or some kind of cleaner. It's all got to be labeled, even if it's in a spray bottle, even if it's in a jar. I have like jars where I make vanilla extract with bourbon and vanilla beans, and I have to label the jar vanilla extract. You know, even though worst case scenario, someone drinks it, and I guess you could like break your brain with how delicious it is. I suppose that's possible, but even though there's no real danger, you have to have everything labeled. There's some rules like that. I recommend just calling them, you know, because they'll probably be coming around to someone else in your area, and you say, if you're in town, I have an open jet. Would you be willing to come by and check it out unofficially? I bet you they will, because they're decent dudes, especially if you offer them some beer. That's always a good bribe, because it's not technically a bribe. Well, it is technically a bribe. Anyway, bribe people. That's good advice. Other good advice. You have I'm sure you have a Brewers Association. And like in New York State, the Brewers Association isn't trying at all to charge little guys like me money. You know what I mean? And they got all the information you need. And they they try and keep the laws so that nobody comes and messes with you. Like, I know in New York, restaurants try and make it so we can't serve beer because they're like, well, we want to sell beer at huge inflated prices, low quality beer that we treat like shit all the time. We want to be the people who can sell that because we're dicks, and why would we let people have a good time? So your Brewers Association has to lobby to keep that from happening because that's the kind of world we live in. But yeah, I mean, any information you need from them, they have it. You join them, and they're like, all right, guy, you owe me like $12 until you become like a real brewery, and you can ask them any question. All these questions. You could just, ask them, and they'll have an answer for you. Do you have a checklist of equipment needed to start? And if so, is it shareable? Let's see. If you watched the first video to this, you should have seen everything I had in there. Maybe you didn't see the compressor unit for my cooler. in my fermenting stuff. I mean, I'd be totally willing to share it. It's just that I couldn't write it all down. The one thing I'll say is, I mean, you pretty much know what you need if you're home brewing. The thing that doesn't strike you is how do you move stuff around if you can no longer pick it up and carry it? When you move into pumps, there's all kind of crazy stuff going on that you need to watch out for. So, gosh, I try and put a list together, but I think if you just watch that video a couple of times and look around, if there's anything you see you don't know what it is, let me know. But yeah, I think that's the best way to figure that out. Proverbial question. What would you do differently? What have you learned via trial and error that comes to mind? Oh, I'll tell you what. All my tanks, I didn't specify where I wanted the ins and outs of them. So they arrived with their exhaust ports and their, their gas burner in spots and their whirlpool in and tank drain out in seemingly random configurations. I'll bet it was just the way the last guy spec'd it, and I wasn't smart enough to know that you can spec that. So yeah, consider that. You'll want to know what your space is and how it's going to be laid out. I got kind of lucky with mine. Both the exhaust ports kind of pointed together to go up the chimney to the roof. So yeah, definitely that. What else would I change? If I were to start over, I didn't have those grain bins when I started, so definitely get those. I had all kinds of trouble till I got those bins that the grain is stored in. Your cooler is going to need to be bigger than you think. And you're going to need a lot more room to clean stuff than you'd think. Besides that, come to terms with the fact that this is your weekend thing now. You know what I mean? If you're like, I'm going to do some professional bass fishing, that's going to be like my thing. That takes time away from this brewery. And, like I wanted to shoot this at the brewery, but I have 2 kids asleep elsewhere, and I get almost no time for anything. So, know straight off the bat that this is your new identity. If you don't want this to be your new identity, then, rethink it. Because it's not just a job. Maybe it is if you don't have a day job. I still have a day job. Maybe it would be just a job. Okay, here's new advice. Get enough money to just make it your day job. Or don't, because then you might close early. So to answer your question, I don't know. Yeah, physical space is a big one. And, and I would have had better floor drains if I could have. Do you know what it is mainly, though? Don't be afraid to just go and do something. And don't think that you can't. If your building needs a floor drain, call up your buddy who owns a demo saw. Put that shit in. If you go into your building and you see that the whole place is sagging because some jackass took out 2 of the 3 posts that hold up the middle of the damn building, and you know that because when you went upstairs, there was still 2 posts, and you could look down between the floorboards and see where they got crudely cut off, and the posts upstairs are in tension instead of compression, and the building's about 8 inches wider than it used to be. Put in new posts and fix that shit. Don't worry about shit. Just jump into it. And if you do something that's technically illegal, just tell everyone that you're really stupid and that you didn't know what you're doing, which will probably be at least half true. It was 3/4 true with me, and it's all almost worked out fine. Anyway, I can tell that wasn't helpful at all, but hopefully it was amusing. So, thanks for checking this video out. Thanks, Brummy Grund. And I'll see you back at my brewery. Sláinte.